I'm answering 3 things today that all came from a comment that showed up this morning. I loved the questions. Number one is how to remember longer jokes, how to remove the uhs and the ums, and how to improve your story narration. Okay. Again, I'm terrible at this. Thank you for following. Thanks for all the watches. You'll be totally surprised that I just look so different than any of the other videos of mine that you've seen. I just don't post that often. Now, I'm wearing a Savannah Bananas hat, if you know who the Savannah Bananas are. This is an organization that plays banana ball, which is the best entertainment in baseball, in sports, and they're great. I'm now a manana with them, so I'm a male cheerleader, a dad bod cheerleader with this group. Couldn't be happier with this group of guys. They're so fun. If you think that you'd be interested in that content on this YouTube page, let me know. I don't know. There's a bunch of videos about how to do stand-up. I feel like I've met my fill of those. I feel like any other content that I would create, I don't know. That's why I just don't have a lot of content that's on here. I just can't ramble on about the same crap over and over. But I thought some of these questions were really good, so I thought I would address them. And then tell me in the comments if you think, yeah, maybe I want to see you doing Savannah Banana dad bod stuff. I'm writing sketches with the group of guys. They're super cool. All right. How to remember long jokes. Man, I don't know how to say this without just sounding, without giving you the bad news. The bad news is you have to get your set and your jokes to a level to where they're completely scripted, written word for word, wordsmithed, almost like poetry, where every word, every syllable, every way that you say it connects and it's efficient. And what the very best comedians in the world do, and really what all comedians do, anyone that gets paid to do it, what they do is they have everything written down, they have everything completely memorized. And every time they get up on stage, they film themselves, they hop off stage, they review their film, and they say, okay, this should be shorter. I don't need to provide as much context. Okay, this should be a little bit longer. It seems like I lost the audience in the punchline because I didn't give enough information to get to the punchline. My timing needs to go faster. My timing needs to go slower. I need to use a different emotion. I have to show more hand gestures, less hand gestures. Boy, it worked better when I wore this color. These shoes worked better. These pants worked better. This seemed to be a little distracting. Every little moment that you're up on stage is entertainment time. The audience is watching you at all times, and they don't know the moments where you're shifting from joke to joke, and they don't know when it's showtime and what's not showtime. So their default setting is the moment you're in the building, you are on. If you don't want to be seen, if you don't want to be judged, go sit in that green room. But if you're sitting in the audience is watching you and they're gauging you. Part of the show is them watching you. So to memorize this stuff, if it's completely memorized, then that solves how do you remember the long jokes. But how do you memorize things? And there's a number of different ways that you can do it. The easiest way that I did it for years is I printed everything out on pieces of paper, and then I would just memorize it like line for line, paragraph for paragraph, look down at the piece of paper, and then I would just try to say it to myself. And I look down at the piece of paper, say it to myself. Now, over the years, as technology's gotten better, really, I think the easiest way is I say my jokes into my voice recorder or on video or whatever you wish. And then when I'm driving around in the car, I listen to my own set back to myself. And just like listening to the radio or listening to Spotify and listening to your favorite songs that you have memorized, it's the same as listening to your own set. You hear the jokes, you hear the cadence, and it's almost a sing-songy as you get through it so that you can memorize it. It is tedious, it takes a lot of time, but not as much time as you think. If the jokes are good and you say the jokes often enough, they're going to sit in there. If you're constantly struggling with a joke, it means that the word structure isn't good enough, or you're using too many similar words, so you're getting tripped up on saying one word over here where you're using another word over here. So if you use variety of words, it'll help you get back on track of where you are in the joke. There's so many different ways to say car, vehicle, automobile, ride, wheels, transportation, the Daytona, the Volvo, whatever, Uber. So if you change those words, it'll be easy to remember those. There are also apps that you can download that are like line learner types of apps. I've used those. I've used different ones with different results, but some people really swear by them. And the advantage of those is you download the app, it's going to cost you $3, and you can do it like one sentence at a time or two sentences at a time. And basically it breaks down your entire script for you one line at a time, and you have to take the time to record into it. But now you can just press a button in the app, it says the one or two lines, and then you can say it out loud. You say it out loud, and then you hit the line again and see if it's connected. And then over time, you can actually hit play to where it'll play it all sequentially so that you can then say it all sequentially. So it's kind of like using the voice record app or a video of yourself saying it. It's just an easier way to control it. So I hope that's helpful. The way you remove the uhs and the ums, this is your second question, is unfortunately, it goes back to the memorization part. The reason why you're saying or is you don't know what to say next. You're trying to figure out what the next idea is or the next thought that you have into your mind. And the nervousness is creeping in. And so that's why you're saying the uhs and the ums. Uhs and ums come from also not having the ability to be comfortable with silence. Humans really struggle being in silence, especially when there's other people in the room. They will try to make small talk. They'll just talk for the sake of talking. I'm guilty of it. I struggle with silence, but when I'm performing, I understand the power of silence. So being able to sit in a space, tell a joke, take a gap in between jokes, and being quiet, it brings everyone's attention back to you. So if you're having a tough time figuring out what the next thing is to say, try to be quiet, take a breath, do meditation on on stage. The other piece of it too is you have to practice. If you're the type of person that in everyday life you are an or but or know what I mean kind of a person, that's a habit, and habits have to be broken. And the only way you can break a habit is by creating an unhabit. I know it sounds weird, but an unhabit offsets the habit. So every time you get a quirk, like it's almost like in Tourette's they refer to it as a tick, which in Tourette's the brain takes over and you can't fight it. But for people that don't have Tourette's, it's almost like you have a tick, which is the or the and you have to be mindful the moment that hits so that you can be mindful to create the new unhabit of just not doing anything or doing something different. You have to be mindful when that happens. And again, if you video yourself on stage doing your set and see all of the mindless ticks and movements and habits that you have, that's a great start for you to just work on one at a time. You don't have to fix the whole thing. Just work it yourself one at a time. The final piece that you wanted to ask about was improving your story narration. I'm not going to talk into how to make a story funny because I have a whole video on that's already on my channel that you can go check out. But it doesn't really address storytelling because telling a narrative or telling a story within a stand-up context is totally different. But there is definitely an art to telling a story. And everyone wants to tell stories. This is how we connect to other people. This is how we bring people into our world, provide them context of who we are and what we experience on a daily basis through the human experience, and then share details within our world in hopes that will pull you in to our world. That's storytelling. And a lot of times we tell stories just to show someone how interesting our lives are. We tell a story to entertain somebody else or to make them laugh, to fill time. And oftentimes we tell stories as a way to relate to somebody else, to relate to somebody on how we want to teach a lesson. And so if we don't know why we're telling a story, don't tell the story. My kids are 11 and 14. And they're both in that age where they're learning the art of telling a story. And they're trying to craft what message they want to convey and how to kind of get that message out. And storytelling is a skill. And so the first thing you have to know when you're telling a story is, what's the point? What am I trying to show somebody? Am I trying to teach a lesson? And am I trying to wow them with some turn or twist at the end, which means you can't give that twist earlier. That goes into the joke writing that we talked about, right? You can't give away the joke too early. Or am I trying to tell a story about something that maybe that happened to me or somebody that I know that helps me align or create some kind of rapport with the person that I'm with? So if you don't know those things up front, you're going to struggle with storytelling. And then, just like in joke writing, you're going to want to give the least amount of context that is necessary so that you can get to the point of your story. What's the point? What are we trying to get to here? So one of the discussions that I'd had recently with somebody was about getting people to exhibit or not exhibit certain behavior. And this is in parenting. So how you got your kids to do something or not to do something. And the one that came up for me was how I learned not to touch the stovetop. Of course, every parent says, don't touch that, it's hot. Don't touch that, it's hot. Don't touch that, it's hot. My parents certainly said, don't touch that, it's hot. But I had one of those personalities, as most kids do, that I have to go feel it for myself. I have to go touch it for myself. So I remember being like 3 years old. My mom had just pulled something off the stove, and then she went to the bathroom and left me unattended for that whopping 7 seconds. And I remember trying to crawl up onto the stove by crawling onto the handle of the oven. And as I was crawling up, my weight pulled the oven door back, and I came flying back, and I hit the floor, hit my head, probably a concussion, wailed and screamed. My mom came flying out to see what had happened, saw that the oven door was open, totally in a panic, saw that I was probably going to be fine. But the lesson learned here was, don't mess with the stove. Did I find out if it was ever hot? No, I didn't. But it didn't matter, because the behavior that my mother wished for me to not do, which was to touch the stove, it locked in. It locked in. So there's a story. Gave you a little bit of context, got into the story, and then gave you a little bit of my commentary on the end there. I hope this is helpful. Let me know in the comments if you want to learn more about the Savannah Bananas and me being a man-nana. You can check out my content at Casey Casperson on Instagram and theclassic.casey and TikTok. So go check it out. Sorry it's been so long. It'll probably be another 2 years before you see another one of these videos from me again. I am terrible at social media.